What's up, Internet? Twitch, YouTube, all that. I'm liking this camera a whole lot better than the stock camera on this laptop. We're going to goof off and, play with this cutting board that I'm making out of leftover pieces. I have a bunch. And one of the things I've been doing most, speak, Tom. If you don't know, the cutting board thing started by taking scraps. I make some cutting boards. I've been taking scraps and recycled wood and cutting them up and making these random pattern cutting boards, like this really nice one. This one's really nice. This is one of my favorite right here. This is completely unfinished yet. When they get finished, the colors just pop when the finish hits the wood. But anyways, they've been completely out of random widths, random cuts, random pieces. Some of them were furniture. Some of them were, just the only thing I'm not using is the reclaimed oak, but it was mostly reclaimed wood. I recently had to start buying wood and using it because I'm running out of reclaimed. The problem is the reclaimed was literally random. Whatever I would, put a strip in, I'd put a piece in, slide it in. It would be a certain length. I'd have to add to it. I'd have to cut a piece to the same width. And I was making more and more and more scrap that I kept trying to match to. And I was making more and more scrap, trying to match to the other scrap. And it got sort of out of hand. So what I'm doing now, and I had failures and stuff like this one. Feel like this is all like pieces all glued together of stuff. And this was actually in a cutting board, and there was errors like right at the end here with glue joints and stuff that was unsatisfactory. So I cut it out of the cutting board, and actually I think it came out of this cutting board, and replaced it with other stuff. And this is a test. There's multiple strips with different width ends, and basically I'm trying to use it up and get a more standardized. I still want to do the random pattern, but I want to get standardized widths. I want to have like 1 inch, 3/4, ½ inch, 3/8, quarter inch, whatever. I may only have a couple 3. They may not actually be any one set dimension, but I want to start batch cutting it so when I go to meet it, I'm not getting so much waste. So what I'm trying to do here is I have 3 boxes of junk. That's not junk. I mean, this is all really expensive wood. This is cherry, hard maple, more cherry, black walnut, more cherry. This one here is, as you can see, it's purple heart maple, black walnut, more maple. This stuff is really expensive. The black walnut's really expensive too. So I don't want to throw it out. This was a cutout. This is another cutout from another board. There was joints not well made, but I cut the bad. When I'm making the board, I don't have time, so I cut out the piece. I replace it, but then I can go back and take that cut out piece and patch it and reuse it. So anyways, that's what I'm doing today is reusing some of these pieces. Like that's why this is actually 2 pieces, because there was a knot hole or a crack or something in between. So I cut the crack out, cut the cracking out, and actually I think I want this one to go down here, and I'll reglue it together. And yeah, you'll end up with a seam or something. But yeah, that's what I'm doing today. So there will be tools running, like mostly this here table saw, which is finally getting, it's not perfect yet, but it's darn close. I have a love-hate relationship with these old style contractor saws. When they finally get tuned in, they are awesome. Getting them tuned in is a major nightmare. And this edge is sort of flat, but it's got some bevels. I have to clean this up. So that's what I'm gonna do first. Let's do that right now. Let's cut this piece and clean it up, and fit it into the board. As you can see, this camera's way better. You know, it's like all kinds of stuff all glued together to make it the right height and length for a cutting board, or for this cutting board. I have yet to make a standardized size cutting board, but that's the other thing I'm trying to do, is figure out what a good standardized size of one or two or three is. So that's kind of what we're doing today. And my brother already started one. We're going to unclamp some stuff because I've got some boards glued together. But the first thing I want to do is clean this up. And I need to raise the blade. And it's going to get loud, folks, so be prepared. And I'm just going to skim this board to flatten it because it is not flat. It's going to get loud. I gotta say, I don't know if this camera will pick this up, but holy crap. I've used CMT blades. They have recently become more and more popular. They've always been kind of a high-end blade, but they're still starting to make some affordable quality blades. A good blade used to be like a circular saw 10-inch blade. For a good one was like the Amanas or the I can't think of the name of it. I have some Tomax. They were all expensive. You know, a good one starting cheap was 40, $50. Right now, the CMTs are all over the place on sale for like $30. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them. The place I kind of like to get them is Taylor Tools, or Tools by Taylor. Yeah, Taylor Tools, I think it is. It's a small distributor. He does a lot of YouTube-y, but it's a small guy. It's basically the one guy in his family that run the company, from what I understand. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but that's the impression I get. But he does wicked good deals, and a couple of times I've had to contact him, you know, asking questions, and he always get an answer. It may not be, you know, right away, but within 24 hours you get answers. He has tried to get me a particular type of sandpaper I wanted to work with a particular sander that I have, and he like went out of his way. He couldn't get it, but he told me what, you know, he actually tried, and he contacted me a couple, three times, and you know, I'm going to try here, I'm going to try there. Let me know if you find it somewhere else because I'd like to carry it, kind of thing. And he tried. A week later, he finally just said, I can't find it. I'm thinking they just don't even make it. But he's very personable. So he's generally about the same price as Amazon. He's generally a buck or two more, not because he's a buck or two more, but because of shipping. I get Amazon free, blah, 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 because of shipping. But generally, and I think if you go over like 65 or 70 bucks, he gives you free shipping. But yeah, I prefer to do that over Amazon as long as the price difference isn't ridiculous. Just because I like to support the little guy that actually goes out of his way to help people out. But anyways, these CMT blades, that is, I don't know if you can see that. That's a glue joint right off the saw. I don't have to sand it. I don't have to run it through the joiner. I don't have to do anything. That's a CMT 24 tooth count, basic everyday. I think it's a combination blade. It is a 24 tooth. If you don't know about table saws and chop boxes, basically when you're cutting with the grain of the wood, you want a low tooth count, and when you're cutting across the grain of the wood, you want a higher tooth count. Pretty much it. There's more to it than that, but that's the very basics of it. But let's clean the other side, and as you can see, that just, I'm just amazed at how well that works now. So let's do the other side. Again, it's going to get loud, folks, so be prepared. That is like that's like a perfect cut. You can't get much better than that. You just can't get much better than that. It's freaking awesome. Let's slide this in here somewhere. Clamp it down. See where my joint problems are. There's a joint problem right here. I don't know if it's this little thin piece, which this is a little beyond me resawing anymore, and it's not perfect, or if it's this. And those are fitting fairly tight, so I'm guessing it's actually this. I wonder if I can kick this down one. Wonder if I even need to. When I actually put clamps on it, that should straighten it out. Wonder if I flip it over. Ooh, that's better. I'm not too concerned with this particular board. Normally, I would want the bottom joints to be absolutely perfect too. What's up, old curmudgeon? What are you doing up? Aren't you on the West Coast? Isn't it I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning over there? How's life? Happy 4th of July to anybody in the U.S. and happy go to work day for everyone else. What do you guys think about this camera? I'm thinking it's way better. I mean, it's still blown out, and I'm getting a lot of sun glare because of the door, but I am not shutting the door. It is freaking gorgeous out. I like the sunlight, so get over the blown out camera because I'm sorry, it's a live stream and I'm just not. There's nothing here that important. Oh, I thought you were on the West Coast. Why did I think you were on the West Coast? You're in the middle coast, the no coast, the coastless. You're coastless. Anyway, happy 4th of July. So yeah, I'm gluing up little bits and pieces together to make another cutting board. And I really need to match this. I mean, literally, if you look, a lot of these are just glued up scraps. Oh, so you're not even that far away. Why was I thinking you were farther away? All right, this piece needs to be shaved down. This one ain't going to be easy because it's tiny, but I think I can do it without cutting my hand off. It won't be easy, but I think we can do it. Oh, come on, I got that thing a little too tight, I guess. Might have to give this a screw or two loose. Let's leave a little on the loose side. Buzz this through. Very loud. Frickin' thing. I know you really can't see it on the camera probably, but this is planed on my helical planer, which you can't see because the chair's in the way. Right there, up above the laptop here, right there. That thing. Where is it? Right there. Which is awesome. It's got the helical bit and everything. This side, I just ran on a table saw, is like glass. That blade is so freaking awesome. It just really, really is. And it's still a hairy bit thicker. Just the helical. Make sure those two are actually seen, even though they should be because they're off the same board. They're just cut out. So let's run the non-glassy side through and give it a little tighter fit. And use one of these as reference again. So one thing I do like about my stupid little DeWalt saw, it's got the knob here where you can super fine adjust it. This tapping thing annoys the crap out of me. I don't like the whole tappity tap thing. It's so inaccurate. Noise. Glass. It literally makes like glass cuts. It's amazing how nice they are. And that's freaking dead on. You can't ask for a better fit than that. Out of wood. That is freaking perfect. Perfect, I say. Did I clean up both sides of this? I think I did. Yep, I did. Because it is glassy smooth. It's just amazing. I really need to clean these up. Because these, I can see the swirl marks in it. But I really don't want to take any more off. Because they are already so very thin. And they're hard to do because they're so flexible when you're doing it this thin. That I think I'm gonna live with it. Because I can get a pretty good joint there. And I think this board's almost done. So I think I'm going to change this. Yeah. I think I am going to leave it. Thinking about putting this, because this is Purple Heart here and here. And it's Purple Heart out here. But I think I'm going to leave it, because this is going to be cool out here. This is the edge that you'll actually see on the end of the cutting board, which will be freaking cool. Wicked cool. And it does have a little glue area here, but if I put that inside, it's not a big deal. But I do want to put this down here, like so. And again, I may actually, once again, keep one. I keep making a cutting board for myself, and then people want it. And I've already had people go, "Oh, that cutting board you did for yourself, I kind of like one like that." And I'm like, "Well, I should just sell it, and I'll keep this one, and then move on to the next one. Someone will want it because I actually use them." Yes, the fence can be trued. Okay, here's the thing, and I'm going to get semi-technical about it. On the back of that saw, if you have the same thing, the rigid Craftsman, the old Powermatic, anything from the like mid 50s up to, well, currently Delta still makes the Deltas. Delta still makes basically that exact same saw. There's really, I mean, there's changes in it, but the basic operation, the basic mold, they've changed a few things, but they still make it. If it's one of the ones where the motor hangs out the back and is belt driven, there's two trunnions. The fence isn't the problem. I mean, it could be, but the blade has to be aligned to the miter slots first. Then you align the fence to it. Yes, the fence can easily be aligned. There's just two bolts here on this one. There's a few that are different, but 90% of them, they have two bolts here. You tighten everything up, loosen these two bolts, square it up, and then tighten the bolts back up. The key is to actually lock it into place, then loosen them, and then adjust it. The big thing, though, is to mount the blade square to the miter slots. The two trunnions, the actual whole trunnion, is free. It's actually just trapped into the two half-moon slots of the trunnion mounts. And those trunnion mounts actually move back and forth. There's two or three bolts, depending on which brand it is. Most of them have three. You basically center the front one, They're usually either 9/16 or 14 millimeter, depending on which brand and where it was made and what time it was. If it's mid 90s, late 90s, it could be converted. Anything before that will be standard SAE, and 9/16, 5/8. The newer ones will be like 8 millimeter or freaking, I think they're 14 millimeter for the trunnion mounts. But other than that, they're the same damn thing. Um, you literally move the trunnions to line the blade up. It's a freaking nightmare. It took me like 4 days to get it even close, and it's still not right. They sell for $20 basically a little angle bracket with a couple of screws in it. Because normally you unscrew it and you tap it with a freaking hammer, and then screw it back up, and then check it, and then tap it with a hammer, and it's like you never get it perfect. You always get it close, but you never get it perfect. With these two little things, you loosen the bolt. You actually take the two side bolts out, and you put these two studs in. It's basically just a piece of aluminum angle bracket, but it's cut and sized and everything. They're $20, well worth it, because you get the studs and everything. You buy all the hardware. I had to buy the hardware because I bought the wrong one. I bought the metric one. I was like, screw it. I re-drilled it and bought studs and everything, and I spent almost as much for just the studs and a couple of extra screws and nuts as I did for the whole kit, because it's almost $20 for all that stuff these days with all the metal. Anyway, for that thickness stud and everything. But you buy this thing for $20, and basically what it does is you snug everything up, and then you use these two screws on the side, and you tighten one and loosen the other, and they're super duper fine threaded, so they're micro adjusting. So you can snug everything so it's not quite tight, and then use those, slide them back and forth, and it only works. You tighten the front, you only move the back and forth, and you micro adjust these things, and they're called PALS, 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 Precision Alignment System, Precision Alignment Linear System, or something like that. Again, they're just angle brackets. They're aluminum angle brackets with a hole in it for the stud and a screw that goes to the side that actually pushes on the trunnion and pushes the trunnion back and forth from the left to the right. And you basically, tighten one, loosen the other, and it shifts it one direction. Tighten, loosen this one, tighten that one, and it moves it to the left. It's stupidly simple. Why they don't have them around them, I don't know. Modern saws, the stupid DeWalt table saw that the camera is actually sitting on top of. It's my camera stand at the moment. That's just built into it. They have a freaking screw and a nut, and it's like a slide nut. So you tighten the screw and it moves it one direction, and you loosen the screw and it moves it the other. And the front stays positioned and the back pivots, and that way you can line it up. Every modern stupid construction table saws, the DeWalts, the Rigids, all the lightweight construction carry around ones, they all have it built in. Pretty much every modern saw has it built in, unless it's one of these what they call contractor saws. That's these big old ancient things with the motor dangling out the back and it's belt driven. Those, you need those stupid balls. Some of the modern ones, I actually think the new DeWalt, I haven't looked at it. The new DeWalt sells for like $500-600. Basically the same thing as that. I think they have that built in now. Not positive, but I think so. Anyway, there's that. So yes, they're all adjustable, but you don't want to adjust the fence to the blade. You want to adjust the blade to the miter slots, and then just the fence to the miter slots. Everything gets adjusted to the cast iron slots in the cast iron table because they're not movable. And once you do that, everything lines up. Does all that freaking babbling from me make any sense to you? Yeah, they're a nightmare. It literally took me like 4 days of, and I'm not talking of work here and there. It was like 6 hours a day for 4 days to get it even close until I got those pawls. And even with the pawls, or pals, I keep calling them pawls, pals, it took me like a day and a half to get it like spot on. And it's still not perfect, but it's darn close. It's as close as I'm ever going to need it. And then yes, you adjust your fence out, and you're actually supposed to. A lot of people don't realize on a saw like that, um, you're actually supposed to have there should be an actual like 1 or 2 thousandths taper in the fence away from the blade at the tail. So when you push it through, if you push it through and you get past midway and the blade is still in contact with the wood, it's it's off. It may actually be straight, but if the blade's still in contact with the wood, it's dangerous because as it comes up out of the table, it can actually lift the board up and kick it back at you. So you want that blade just like a billionth of an inch out. So it's just kicked out a little bit. So if you push it through, the back end isn't. Yeah, just enough so the back of the blade isn't catching the board and kicking it back up at you. And that prevents the whole. If you see a lot of like swirl marks, even with a cheap blade, you can get a good clean cut with a cheap blade. If you're seeing a lot of swirl marks in the side of the board, it's generally because the blade and the blade is pinching the board against the fence a little bit. You're better off having it out than in. Does that make sense? Anyway, back to getting actual something done. This is a nice looking cutting board, I think. It's all mostly strips. There is some randomy pattern in it, and there's like this thing is cool. This is going to be the end. That's maple, cherry, maple, and it's actually two different kinds of maple. And then this is actually a laminated piece. This actually, I wish I almost want this as a board. You can't even tell it's laminated other than the coloring here because the sapwood is out. But these are all like, none of these are actually solid. They're all multiple scrap strips glued together to make a taller strip that I can make a cutting board out of. Using up all the scraps. Gotta use the scraps. Can't throw this crap out. Too damn expensive. So here's another cutting board. I have no idea what this is. I know it's heavy. It's tight grained. It is. I thought it was like pine or something at first, but it's way heavy. It's super dry. I have a moisture meter. Um, it might be cherry. It doesn't really look like cherry though. But this was a cabinet or a bureau or something. Somebody brought me a bureau, and this was like the top, and it was all rotten and everything. But I got like 5 or 6 of these out of it by cutting it all up. I've been recycling wood. It's funny, freaking 20 years ago, if you said I'd be recycling wood, I'd be like, no way, that's too much of a pain in the butt. I hated recycling wood, especially in like construction, where a lot of times they'll make you like, we use a lot of 2x4s and everything to like brace walls, keep them square. You know, you get a 12-foot long 2x4 and you hold the wall up before the next floor goes up, so it doesn't just fall over or bow out or anything. A lot of companies, and rightfully so, they don't want you to just waste that. Yeah, you lose 2 or 3 feet where all it's split and you got all the nail holes in it, but you can still cut an 8-foot stud out of it, or make a header out of it, or whatever, jack stud, window framing. It's rough framing. But I hated that, pulling all the nails, cutting it all up, trying to figure out, sorting through it all. It's like, here's 20 studs, go find one that's actually straight enough and clean enough that you can. It just was annoying. Here I am now, and it's like people bring me scrap old furniture and I cut it all up and make crap out of it. I have a whole box of spindles from a table. I tried to run them through the planer and it fucked it all up. Pardon my French. Screwed it all up. They're all the spindly things, but it was this fold-out table. It starts as a what we call an entryway table. It's only about a foot wide, but it's got these like legs that fold out, but not your normal legs. There's like 20 pieces that all fold out, and it would become a full dining room table. It was huge, but it starts out as a 1 foot wide, and it like unfolds. And it was all cherry and maple It's really nice, but it was just, for one, it's butt ugly. It's just too many things. But it had all these decorative spindles in it. I cut it all up, and I have a box of all the parts that I cut out of it that I thought were usable, and I tried to glue them all down to a board like this, and then run them through the planer, but the glue didn't hold, and a couple of them blew up and tore my planer apart. And gave up on that. But I think now that I got this set, I can run them through, even though they're small. I may run them through the other in a week or two and just use them. They're all like little pieces. But anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking I should glue this up, and I was gonna glue it up in multiple sections, but there's not that many internal joints. They're already pre-glued internal joints, if that makes sense. All this kind of stuff. So it's just a couple end joints, like this one's already glued up, even though it's a bunch of end butt joints. It already is. So I may just glue this all up in one big slab and crank it down, and that'll be that. I'm trying to decide if I want to make it even wider, like bring it right out to the edge of this. Because I have some more. I have boxes. I mean, I literally have boxes of scrap. But a lot of this isn't thick enough. It's too thin here. So they need to be glued, face glued, which is what a lot of this is. It's going to get, just like this one is. It's going to get a, this has got cherry and maple glued together. A little strip of cherry in it. Probably, yeah, maybe I'll glue another strip of maple or cherry on top. See? Oh, and then that's almost perfect. It's a little high even. But I wonder if I can get two of these, glue them together like that, and then make one solid. That's what I'm doing. Hey, Rob. How is life? How's everyone doing on this 4th of July? It's the 4th of July. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue fireworks. Who's old enough to remember that? Red, white, and blue fireworks like lightning in the sky. Am I gonna get tagged on YouTube or Twitch for copyright? I am working. Why are you working? It's the 4th of July. You're not supposed to work on the 4th of July. That's like sacrilege. No. Trying to be a lazy ass, but my gut says get up and eat. Well, get up and eat and then go back to being a lazy ass. Have a bowl of cereal. Let's I may actually pad this out even a little bit farther, like bring it right out to the edge of the plywood. I have some more boards right here, all gluing together. So let's unclamp these and clean them up. And there we go. Now I got one I can pretend is a full piece of Purple Heart. You work security for a gated community. Well, you kind of need to work. They don't need their freaking gate guy. What's up, Jeff? Let's that came out pretty good. I don't see any seams in the joints. The joint here came together pretty good. Let's look at this one. Here's another one. Glued up last night. I was never a fan of squeeze clamps until I started doing these. And then I'm like, you know what? Squeeze clamps are the bomb for this kind of stuff. I got a little opening there, but I think that's actually in the board, not in a clamping failure. It is. It's in the maple. There's a little crack right here. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Right there. Did it pick it up? Yeah, sort of. Anyway, there's a little hole there, but we can cut that out or just leave it in there. So it's only on the one side. If I glue it into the board, it'll fill in with glue and it'll be all done. We might have to run these through the planer. The glue isn't 100% dry anywhere. The freaking clamp was in contact with it. It's so weird. It's like the glue dries inside the wood, but if it doesn't have two surfaces of wood in contact, it never dries. In other words, you could have one surface of wood and the metal clamp or plastic shell on the clamp, boot, whatever. It won't dry, even though it's in contact with the wood on one side. But if it's, it could be 4 inches thick, no air gets in there. But if there's two pieces of wood, it'll cure. It doesn't actually dry, it cures. But anywhere the clamp was in contact, it's still like gummy. It's not all hard plasticky. But that's all right. Let's gum up my planer blades. What else did I have glued together? Oh, I got another one right here. This was some maple and cherry. There's like all kinds of different stuff all glued together. Let's not waste the wood, right? There's some cherry and maple and a different kind of maple and actually a third kind of maple. Actually, I think these are the same kind. And some more cherry and even a thin strip of cherry here. Not that you can see it. Let's not waste the wood. We can make more wood out of all the pieces of wood. I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to be taking stuff like this. It's all the ends and cutoffs, and they're all glued together, and gluing those back together to make more stuff. Right now, we're just dicking around making a cutting board. I'm just basically blowing off all the like cutoffs and gluing them back together into other stuff to make more cutting boards. Because why not? Because I can. Let's put all the clips away. This thing's actually pretty cool. I don't even remember. Some YouTuber gave me this idea. It's basically a French cleat, just a little scrap piece with a piece of long plywood attached to it. You just clamp all your clamps onto it, and then you hang it. And then when you need all your little squeezy clamps, you can just grab the whole thing, and all your little squeezy clamps come with you. It's pretty. It's so stupidly simple, it's ingenious. Right? Let's get the clamps off the keyboard of the computer in case it wants to do something I don't want it to. Start pushing keys like a cat. And you just squeeze clamp all your squeeze clamps onto the squeeze clamp holder. And then you're in squeeze clamp heaven. Yeah, I'm like, I've always just thrown them in a basket. And I mean, this takes a minute to do literally what I'm doing right now. But you know what? So much better than I'm saving time in the long run, because when they're all just, I literally used to throw them into a shopping basket, and I got even more over there. Trying to find the one you want, because these are all like different compression values, and after a while you get to know which ones grip better or which ones grip a little less, and blah blah blah. I could just look at it and grab the one I want. Digging through a freaking shopping basket is a pain in the butt. Not only that, it's just plain neater. They're up and off the floor, and they just hang on the wall until I need them. And when I need them, I can grab the whole freaking rack and bring it with me. So yeah, it is pretty clever. I want to say the dude was Specific Love, which sounds weird, but he's actually a woodworker guy on YouTube, and he's kind of goofy and funny. And he's a big French cleaty guy, but he's kind of more like me. There's a lot of people that on YouTube that do the French cleats, and they're all using like Baltic birch, and they do this fancy wall, and they spend days making this high tech like gizmo to attach to the French cleat. He's like me. He's like, I got a piece of frickin' plywood. I'm gonna cut it. That's one of the other things I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut it, glue it together. If it holds a tool and it hangs on the French cleat, yay. Keeps my stuff organized. I don't, he's not like slobby about it, like kind of I am. Mine are all this like, I mean, mine are so scrapped. This I have literally taken some of my French cleat units and taken them apart to make more French cleat units and like all the holes and glue and just I don't care at this point. Someday, if I have a lot of money, I may go back and make them look pretty. I would love to, make it all out of Baltic birch or walnut plywood. But at the moment, for one, I wouldn't do that now anyways because I'm still deciding how I want tools hanging and laid out. I've moved everything on there, changed them, remade them like 4 times. So using like scrap is better. When I finally get it the way I want it, and I'm close, I will probably start buying quality plywood instead of just construction lumber. But yeah, if you look at my French cleat wall, let's see how good this camera shows my French cleat wall. There you go. There's my French cleat wall. And most of it is just, it's literally, a lot of it's old construction lumber. Some of it is like literally old moldy construction lumber that I cut down and took plywood and ran it through the planer to get the mold off the top and the bottom. After that, it's fine, but it's all old construction. The actual cleats are old 3/4 inch shelving from my brother's house. It was just 3/4 inch, like, I think it was in his laundry room. A war pension. I've had most of that wall. It's funny. Most of this stuff is not mine. That saw is mine. Oh, that's old. And that saw is mine, and that's old. I've had that for years and years. And those are my actual job site construction saws. I've had that. That's been rebuilt. Like, that's the oldest tool I have, and it's still that. But this is my brother's. This is my father's drill press. That was my brother's. This was my other brother's. And the big table saw was my other brother's. I have lots of brothers. But yeah, everything on that cleat wall is mine. But most of that is basic everyday, job site. That's what I did. I did, construction. I was not a woodworker per se. I did do mostly like finish work, trims and cabinetry, and I did do a lot of repairs. That was actually the last like 20 years of me working in construction was me doing repairs of stuff, fine carpentry repair cabinets, that got damaged in shipping, or, they wanted a 33-inch cabinet and they got a 36, so I had to cut it down. Yeah, the bug screen was kind of cool. Friend of mine gave it to me. We call them the gypsies. They're people we've known, hung out with, friends of my parents, friends of ours. They're kind of like in between me and my parents' age. But anyways, they used to do the whole Revolutionary War thing with us back in the 70s. My parents were big into the whole Revolutionary War enactment in 1776, before and after that, all the way up until the mid 80s. We all dressed up and played fife and drums and did the whole, black powder muskets and all that cannons. It was actually kind of cool. But we've known them from them. But they're both retired, and we call them the gypsies now because they went out and bought a camper and a big truck, and basically their life is now they spend 7 to 8 months of the year every year and just drive around the country, and they literally just like circle and hit friends and family and just drive around the country every year, and they stop here, there, or whatever, and they just call up and be like, hey, in a month we're going to be at your house for 2 weeks, is that cool? And it's like, yep. So they come, they hang out, they help me out around the house, they do some things. But that's one of the things when they noticed I started setting this whole thing up in here, I kept opening and closing the garage door, and they're like, why the hell didn't you just leave it open? I'm like, bugs. Freaking the next day, Amazon box shows up and they goes, oh, here, have a screen door for the garage door. I was like, sweet. I was almost going to get one for this door, but it's kind of hard with my van. It would just rip that thing down, even though because the middle here splits. But I would never get my van in there. A regular car, a small car, would probably drive right through that without an issue, without tearing it down. But my van's just too tall, and I don't think it would fit without tearing the screen off the door. But yeah, there's a bug screen on the door, and it's awesome. And they're not expensive. I always thought they were wicked expensive. They're really not. I think that was like $45. It's a little small, but that's because my garage doors are bigger than normal. I got a foot wider door than normal. Normal doors are what, 7, 9, 9, 7. I don't know. These are a foot wider than normal. So I had to pad it in, but I don't drive a car in here anymore. This used to be my mother's bay. This was my father's bay, the entry bay to the building, and then to the upstairs part of the building, and then my bay on the far right, way back when I originally built this. This is huge. I had to get all kinds of special permits to build this because it's actually bigger than the house. Yeah, which is why I did it because I always had construction vehicles, trucks and vans, and I even had a bus for a short time that I was using. God, I loved the bus. Um, the bus was my favorite, just because it was a bus. But yeah, that's why I did it was for the bigger windows. My father always had a van too. He always had a van or a truck because he was always doing like, once he retired, he was always doing like lawn mowing and working at the church and that kind of crap. He was big into the church working, help mowing the lawn and everything at the church. Yeah. Even still with these, I still almost clip the window mirrors on occasion. I have clipped the mirrors on occasion, but that's mostly because I have so much junk stacked on the side when I was parked on the other side where my mother's car is now. Um, I had like shelving on the side, so you pulled in and kind of shifted to the left, even though. So when I pull out, it was too close to that door. Yeah, I've busted the rear view mirror on my van like 3 times on the driver's side, to the point where I stopped replacing it, and where it was busted, I just got one of those glue-in little dome lights or mirrors. The blind spot mirrors are little like inch and a half, 2 inch round ones that you just stick on. I just stuck it over the crack. It always cracked the same spot. And it's always one of those I'm in a rush things. That's when I do it. If you're paying attention, you do your normal every day, pulling it out of the garage, you never hit it. It's always the I'm in a rush, I'm late for work, whatever, and you got to back out real quick, and you just clip the frickin' edge of the door. And the van has the fold away mirrors, so if you hit something, they fold back. But there's just enough resistance where it always cracks the glass or just nicks the corner of the mirror. It always just looks stupid. Yeah. Well, they have the lift linkage can be raised too now. The new ones they can mount it like on the top, and the arm doesn't like dangle down like these do. I don't know if you can like do that thing there, which that's the normal everyday garage door cheapo. But if you get which I don't have because I wasn't going to pay for it. If you get the torsion springs, which is the big curly spring on the header of the door, instead of the big long springs like I have here, which is your standard cheapo garage door spring. Um, if you get the torsion springs and you get the upright linkage or whatever they call it, you can get a higher clearance on the ceiling. You can get tighter to the ceiling, and you don't have this right there, that arm sticking down that'll catch the top of a truck or a van or something. Because that's the funny thing. My father, he didn't buy it. We bought it for him. His last van before he passed was a utility van for the local town's water company, New London County Water, whatever, water source van. I had the little yellow, like, flashy light on top, the kind that Looks like a magnet, but it's not. It was actually built in. First day, he brings it home, drives it in, clips that frickin' stupid arm, shattered the light. It's like, oops, take that off. Went to take the light off, couldn't because there's a big hole in the roof then. So we just got a new plastic dome that was a little bit lower and put it on it. Then I went to take the light off and it left a big hole in the top of the roof. And I'm like, you know what? Let's get a smaller dome and leave it. Because he was actually using the light on the side of the road anyway, where he worked at the church and he was mowing along the side of the road. Church. He would use the stupid light out on the street to make sure people didn't like drive into him mowing the lawn. Because he'd drive it down the road too. Yep, I've had it happen, but most of the time it does pop out, and I almost glued it back in. Other than that's what it pivots on, because it pops out, lands on the ground, and freaking shatters. I'd rather it just stay in and break the corner off. At least then I still have a mirror, and I don't have all that glass to pick up. But anyway, I think we should glue this puppy together. What do you think? Actually, let's take my brothers out of the clamps. Oh, crap. This thing's heavy. He's just doing it. He's doing the same thing. There's a lot of little pieces, which is why this is actually a second or third glue up, because there's a bunch of little pieces all butted together, so you can't like build the whole thing, because then the glue will start setting and stuff won't clamp together properly and blah blah blah. So, and this is all just scraps. I shouldn't say scraps, they're not really, they're just cut off. But he's just doing this for fun. He was here yesterday. He was here working on this. Just, we're hanging out, BSing and doing it. Just having some fun. Using up some boards. This, I'm probably going to have to pound out of here. Yep. Even though I plasticize it, I got to get a better plastic. My brother actually made a good suggestion. These are my little like clamping jigs, I guess you call them. It just makes it, there's no real purpose in it other than it gives me a flat surface to work on three sides and clamp things to. It's basically just a reference. But I use packing tape. I just line this whole thing with packing tape. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it only takes a couple of minutes. But glue's not supposed to stick to it, and yet it seems like, hit myself. It does. I mean, it still breaks away, and the glue doesn't always dry and where it's in contact with the plastic. And it's only literally where it's in contact with the plastic, like I was saying before. But that's going to be a nice board. But anyway, his thought would be to get one of those silicone mats, like the slat mat that we use for 3D printing. They're Wham Bam makes, but I wouldn't get that. I would get a cheapo off of Amazon and lining the bottom of that with this. Then I don't have to retape it, because after 3 or 4 uses, this tape gets like gunky and I got to peel it up. My only problem thought with the silicone is it's too flexy, and I may not get a good reference off of it. I may not get a flat surface. That makes sense. But it definitely wouldn't stick to that. If I used a little. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's rigid enough. But I think, and that's the big thing with like the slat mat, if you buy the slat mat, for 3D printing, his big thing is it's a lot thicker and nicer than those cheapos on Amazon. But that's just it. I think I kind of want those thinner, kind of crappier cheapos from Amazon for this purpose, because it wouldn't be that bad of a reference because it's still not perfect. I mean, even the plywood I'm using is just crappy plywood, so it's not perfectly flat. I mean, when you're gluing these many strips together, you'll never get it perfectly flat. You have to run it through a frickin' planer or the jointer or on the CNC or whatever to flatten it afterwards. Anyway, so I'm thinking the cheapos. I might have to try one. I may order one this week because I actually just got paid from that big cutting board. So I try and take half the money and pay bills with it when I make one of these cutting boards and get paid, or anything I've been making. I try and take half of it and pay bills and whatever, and take half of it and reinvest it in that way. So I may take, 10 or $15 and buy a couple of cheapo 1 foot by 18-inch or 16-inch, whatever they come in, little silicone mats, and try it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, none of these are perfect. And I mean, I've had a few people say, well, why don't you just start doing the strips and everything? Just glue strips like everybody else does. And that's the problem. Everybody else does it. These randomy thickness slash, patterns that I do like this is what everybody loves. This whole Tetrisy look of randomness. Everyone's like, that's freaking cool. And they're, mine are all inch and a half thick, inch and a half to inch and a quarter by the time they're done with the bevel and the handles. And if you really, really want, I'll put a juice groove on it. I hate doing that because I think they're ugly and useless, but I will if you really, really want it. I've yet to have anybody actually want it in one of these, but yeah. So there's that. Yeah, it's just different. I mean, the whole just strips like this. I mean, that's kind of what this one is, but this is just leftover pieces, so I'm not too concerned. And I may just keep this. This is just to use it up. If I don't give it to someone or sell it, or I'll keep it. And I've made some perfectly straight ones. My nephew's girlfriend slash fiance, I think they got engaged. Not even sure anymore. Got too many nieces and nephews. Way too many. Too many brothers, too many nieces and nephews, too many people. Anyway, they actually ordered some. I gave them their father one and my brother, and they wanted some, and they're like, "No, don't give them to us. We have plenty of money. We will help, pay for new materials. Make us one. We'll give you money." But anyways, she wanted a couple for her parents for their birthdays. They were like a month apart or something. So she ordered two because her parents are divorced, and she said her mother doesn't want she wouldn't want the random pattern. She's very, organized and anal. She'd much rather have a perfect striped one. So it's random widths, but it's straight lines. And it actually came out really nice, kind of like this one is. There's not too much randomy in this. The only randomness is the thickness of each stripe, but it's a full. There's no Tetris blockiness to it, if that makes sense. Does any of that make sense? Sometimes I just babble and it makes absolutely no sense. Oh, let's unglue the legs too. We built legs yesterday too. Here, can you see those? Sort of. Let's get the camera down. There we go. You can sort of see them. Let's unclamp these legs. Since I'm unclamping, I'm doing the unclamping thing. These are oak and black walnut legs that we sort of designed yesterday to go with. I don't know, is it in camera frame? Yes, that tabletop right there, which is black walnut center. That's solid black walnut, almost just 2 inches thick by 4 inches. Freaking nice chunk of wood. That chunk of wood's probably $100. With the reclaimed oak on either side, that's also like 2 inches thick. And these are going to be the legs for that table. which is going to be a coffee table of some sort or another. We're just kind of wing-dinging it because, again, it was something to do, goofing off on a Sunday. I love my clamps, can you tell? Clamp boards. Leg. Pretty cool, huh? Actually, that's the outside. It's a pretty cool looking leg, don't you think? It's got a very slight taper to it. I'll probably put some kind of foot or something on the bottom here that goes across. Still not 100% sure. Yeah, I do just drop them. They go on the rack eventually. I don't know. Does the camera pick up the taper where it's a wide angle camera? It really doesn't. It kind of makes it look like it's sloped right here, huh? It's really not. It's like they're like tapered this way. It's about an inch wider on the top than it is on the bottom. But this strip is even all the way through. It's very cool. It looks really nice. I had this in my brain. And it's all the reclaimed oak with the nail holes and everything on the outside edge. Very cool. And now let's clean up all the clamps I just threw on the floor because I'm a dumbass and just threw them on the floor. These three are longer, so they go in the longer rack. The rack of longerness. And my longer clamp rack is not big enough for all my longer clamps, so I have to go to the even longer clamps with it. And then these are all the little tiny guys. I have a lot of clamps. I have collected clamps over the years, quite a large amount of them. Some of these, quite a large amount of these, probably more than half, are actually my father's. He collected clamps more than I did. We both collected clamps. Now I have a lot of clamps. And I need more. I need more. I definitely need more. Way, way, way more. Like way, way, way more. Does this thing stand up? Sort of. Wonder if I could put the table type on top of it and see what it looks like without it falling over. That's gonna be freaking cool. They're a little too long. I was thinking they were gonna be too short, but they're a little too long. But I'm gonna lose an inch because I'm going to dado these out and inset them into dados into the top and the legs. Plus they have to be cut off because they're all mounted, glued together crap. But yeah, I think that'll be a cool looking table. No, I haven't lasered anything because I don't have a laser. I have a CNC. I'm looking to do two things. One, I may actually start I haven't because most of them go into friends, family, people I know. So it's not like important. I've actually had a few people buy boards that, I kind of know through other people. They're not like regular friends. So I got to start IDing them. But I may start just CNC in the bottom with my logo and name in there. Put Log Mama Makes or something in it. Or I've been contemplating buying one of those like wood burning irons, where you just heat the iron up with a torch and then jam it into the board and it marks it. Or getting a cheap laser. Haven't decided yet. Kind of want the cheap laser just because, lasers pew pew. And kind of want a laser. Not that freaking bad. I may not even put a foot on that. I don't think that'll be that tippy. Those legs are kind of narrow at the ground though. I kind of like it just the way it is, though, without the feet on it. If I put a foot on it, it's going to kind of lose its whole blocky modern design. Modern blocky. It is going to be cool. I use mineral oil, pure food grade mineral oil, and it gets 3 coats of that minimum, depending on how much it soaks it up overnight. And then it gets 2 to 3 coats of a wood finish that I make, which is beeswax and mineral oil. But I make it. And I'm still not 100% on this yet. I mean, it's all the same thing, but I've been experimenting with mixtures of mineral oil and beeswax and what beeswax to use. I've used all natural, that's a yellow. This one here is a bleached white beeswax, which is actually supposed to be better for you, but not as good on the environment when they're making it, because obviously they're bleaching the beeswax. I'm trying this because, one, it's actually a little bit cheaper. It's stupid. The more they process it, the cheaper it is. It just makes no sense to me. But welcome to water. Water is more expensive than soda. Figure that out. You take the $1 bottle of soda or water, add a bunch of sugar and chemicals to it, and charge people 59 cents. What? Figure that one out. Water is more expensive than freaking soda. I still don't. It still makes absolutely no sense to me. That is pure marketing. There's no reality to that other than stupid people are like, yeah, I'll give you $1.25 for a bottle of water because you filtered it. They filter the soda water too. But yeah, it gets 3 coats of mineral oil where I literally flood it. Yeah, it's not even health conspiracy. That's just marketing conspiracy. I don't care about the health much. But yeah, I'm probably just gonna go back to raw. The raw is actually easier to get, even though it's like, and we're talking like $1 cheaper. This is like $1 cheaper on Amazon, and I think you can get either one now that are fairly even. But I've tried bricks and beads. I kind of like the beads. Again, the beads are a little more expensive, but they're a lot easier to get accurate measurements of proportions and how much mineral oil mixed with beeswax to get a decent paste. Yeah, but it's just so, I don't know. It still boggles my mind that people pay $1.25. Like the Fuji water, what, $2 now? It's freaking water. It's just water. Go to your freaking sink and get a glass and add an ice cube to it. It's freaking water. Yes, I know. It's like taken out of the ground of Fuji mountains or whatever, so it's got stuff. But they filter it. They have to for health, for shipping and germs and bugs. So all that stuff that they're making a point about being in there, they take out before they bottle it. I was wanting to get into etching Dollar Tree boards. Wasn't sure how to finish for use. Decoration seems a waste. Oh, for the cutting boards? Yeah. Um, Mineral oil and beeswax. You can buy this stuff pre-made, which is fine. I don't think it's any cheaper me making it. To be honest, I don't. I think it's more expensive. By the time I buy the mineral oil and I buy the beeswax and the cans and blah 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 and waste time and electricity to boil it, because I put it in a double boiler, and then you got to mix the mineral oil and the beeswax, stir it together, and keep stirring it. Because the one thing I have learned is it looks all mixed, and then you go to cure it, and actually I think this one is, well, you can't really see it because I've been using it, but it gets swirly because it's not, there'll be like an oily swirl where the mineral oil didn't fully mix with the beeswax. Um, I think one of these cans is like $8 or $9, which is no, I'm not paying that. But the can themselves are almost $1 each. Then you add the mineral oil and all whatever. If you're not going to be doing a lot of it, making it yourself isn't. You might as well just buy a can of cutting board wax. Most cutting board waxes are just mineral oil and beeswax, and then you just rub it on, and you apply it just like you wax a car. If you were burning it with the laser, I would hit it with mineral oil first, because that will, like, get rid of the burnt particles. Like the loose stuff after you burn it. You want to wipe it off with a toothbrush. Lightly scrub it with a toothbrush, and just hit it with the mineral oil, then wax it. You gotta soak the wood with mineral oil. Those um, Dollar Tree ones, I have no idea what they have on them for a finish. They may just have polyurethane on them, which you absolutely should never ever do to a cutting board. You do not want to eat polyurethane. That's really not good for you. Will it kill you? Nah, I don't think so. Will it clog up every part of your freaking body's like digestive system? Yeah, likely, because you ain't digesting polyurethane. You may just be pooping out little microscopic strings of polyurethane. But I can't imagine that's good for your body. And I'm no like super duper health nut, but there's just like there's a point where common sense just has to kick in. That thing's gonna look cool. The legs are too tall, but I'm not gonna shorten them until after I do the dados and the top and everything and figure out exactly how tall I want it. But that is definitely too tall for a coffee table. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people buy them for just decorations or for. I saw a couple of guys buying the bamboo ones, and then the cutting boards. Whatever they are, 1 foot by 10 inches, and they're cutting them down into little squares, laser etching them, sanding them, finishing them, whatever, and selling these little coasters. And putting like 4 coasters together for like $10, and the cutting board's $1. So yeah, yeah, there's labor involved, but that's still 90% profit to make coasters, and they sell it crazy. I don't get the whole people buying coasters thing, but whatever. You want decorative coasters, all the more power to you. You can make them and sell them and make money and make as long as you're not highway robbering people. People want them and they're willing to pay for them. Yay on them. Yeah, I kind of like the look of the rough slate too. I like the look. I would again. I would never use them. I would never freaking use them as a coaster. That would just they'd be decorative. But I do love the slate. The other thing I like with the lasers. A lot of people are doing it, but Jim Edutech there was doing it for a while, real heavily with his lasers. Was the whole layers of paint, and then you top it off with black, and then you cut the laser into it, and depending on how strong and how long it stays there and whatever, you get the different layers of paint, so different colors shine through. That just looked wicked cool to me. That was like the old. I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember, but we used to get paper. It was like a wax paper with layers of colored wax on it, and the top one was black or white. And you'd take a scraper, like a pencil, but it was just like with a wooden point, and you'd scrape the top layer off and like draw pictures, kind of like a wax etch a sketch. scratch paper. Yeah, I don't even remember what they call it, but it used to be like a thing when I was younger. And you'd make like art, and it was basically just wax. I don't think it was actually wax. I think it was some kind of whatever, but generally the same idea. And now they're doing it with lasers and paint. Yeah, I would imagine lasers do work on that. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I've never played with a laser. I know nothing about them. I mean, I literally know nothing about them. Bright light cuts through stuff, etches stuff, blows your eyeballs out if you don't know what you're doing. Yay. I would like a laser. I don't really want a super cheapo, which is why I haven't gotten one yet. Although I'm thinking I may just get a stupid super cheapo, like stupid super cheapo, just to play. Because I think the biggest expense, and not necessarily the biggest, but a big expense is everything I've read and everything I've heard is you need Lightburn. And what's Lightburn? It's like $100. Yeah, Lightburn's $100, right? Something like that. Anyway, I put all those clamps away, and I didn't want to. I unclamped that one so I could have the clamp, so I could clamp this one together. Here you can see the end of it. $60. I mean, it's not. I'm not. I don't think it's overpriced. I think that's a reasonable price. Just like the guys that were bitching at me about Fusion 360. Oh, it's so expensive, and you should use all the free options, and they're just the evil empire. And okay, Autodesk is not known for being the most, open to the public company in the world. But I'm sorry, Fusion has been free forever. Yes, they've changed the policy some, but when it comes to the actual paying of it, if I had the money right now, I would have no problems paying for it because, unlike Solid, why aren't they bitching about SolidWorks? SolidWorks isn't much better. It is better in some ways, but not in all ways. There's a lot that Fusion does better than SolidWorks. But SolidWorks is, SolidWorks is a good piece of app. But, SolidWorks is thousands of dollars a year with maintenance freaking charges and subscriptions on top of that. You don't just buy it and say, oh, I get, they give you what, 90-day service or a year service. And after that, you're paying for it. So your service agreement's on top of that. Fusion's what, $400? They were complaining because they just raised it to like $570. I don't know. They raised it $100 basically. Yeah, well, Fusion's not all cloud. Fusion's what I call phone home. The app is still there. You can still save all your files locally. Everything. Yeah, it's no more. But they actually have $100. They have $100 hobbyist license now, $100 a year that you can get direct from SolidWorks. The only problem with that is it's Windows only, which I'm a Mac user, so that absolutely has no bearing to me. And it is wicked restricted. You have a lot of the functions, but it's wicked restricted. Most of the restrictions on Fusion for the free hobby grade are minor stupid things. I use Macs because I like to work with my computer, not on it. If you want to play and deal with virus protections and work on your computer, people don't even realize when you use a Windows. I've used them side by side my whole life. I used them way back before there was Windows, when it was DOS and Mac OS. It wasn't, the new Mac OS 10. It was Mac OS, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I used all of those, and I used Windows and MS DOS, and I used all that stuff back in the day. And I've used them side by side all my life. Absolutely nothing is worse than Windows when it comes to crashes, breaking. Macs just work. And they've had their ups and downs. Both of them have. And Windows has definitely become way more stable in the last the last two versions. A lot of people are bitching it. I don't personally like Windows, whatever we're at now. 7, I think, was the last fully that I really had to use every day. That I didn't like the whole interface. Well, but they really haven't changed much. They make it look prettier, but the actual app isn't. The actual OS hasn't changed much. I actually think Mac has gone downhill somewhat with Mac OS 10. With the latest few versions, they're making it more and more. They're making it so simple it's difficult. If that makes sense. They're trying to add so many new features, so many things you can do at a point and a click that you can't find the features because there's too many of them and you get lost in it. And they're trying to make it all, they're trying to make it more like your phones and your iPads than they are a computer operating system. And I think I get why they're doing it and it makes sense, but it's a bad way to go. I, I, I find my computer way easier to use than my iPad. iPad is convenient because of the piece of hardware. The operating system on an iPad sucks. And so does Droid. So it's not a, and I don't think the iPad or the iPhone is any better than the Google Droidy stuff. I've used them both. When it comes to the phones and the droids, it's a toss of the dice. They both have their ups and downs. It's depending on what you want. I kind of stayed with the Apple. I had droids for years. Um, I had, I even had a couple of Microsoft iPad, tablets. Um, I went back to the iPad and the iPhone just because I prefer the Mac OS computers, and they're all integrated much easier. It's the only reason why I stuck with an iPhone or in an iPad. Otherwise, I probably would just be using. I used to use the freaking Amazon Fires all the time because yeah, they were like 3 versions of Droid behind, but they were stupid cheap and they were actually pretty powerful. And honestly, even with the iPad, I'm always like 3 versions behind because when the new update comes out, I always let the other idiots figure out all the bugs and then I update after they when there's an update like a full on blown OS update, and this is true on Windows or Mac, I always wait like 2 months before I let the update apply. Because that way all the bugs are figured out and we've got like 3 updates to the update and 90% of the bugs are. Yeah, well, the Mac OS does the same thing too. When they first release their new updates, they usually are buggy pieces of crap on both sides, whether it's an Apple or a freaking Droid or a Microsoft, because they beta test so limited. And the problem is they send their betas out. They don't send it out to the public necessarily for beta. They send it out to the super geeks, and the super geeks know all the crap, and they do crap automatically. They don't even think about it. Like most Windows people, like do their whole service update, all their crap every morning before they even start working. Like when I ran my Windows machines at work, you fired it up, and the first thing you did was run a virus scan on it, where it was a business. It was a business computer. You ran a virus scan on it. It's just automatic. You just did it. I mean, it did it automatically, but at startup, it just did it all. And if you found any problems, you fixed them. I literally would spend 15, 20 minutes every morning when I started up the Windows machine doing the setup of the computer. Where the Macs, I turn it on and I just start working. And they didn't crash, they didn't bug out. Not that they're never, but they're just way more stable. Way, way, way more stable. And they're not perfect. I have issues with them on occasion, but it's few and far between compared to a Windows, and they just outlast them in general. And it's not the hardware. Every It's funny. It was a while ago, but I used to work for a mortgage company doing advertising and computery stuff. And the lady who ran it, who owned the company, went to buy new computers for the whole office. She was upgrading her office. She moved her office, hiring new people, and she knew I was kind of computer geeky and ran both. And back then I was super geeky. Now I can't figure out either one of them. It's kind of funny, but back then I was super geeky. And she's like, "What should I get for computers? Should I get, back then it was Dell and Compaq. They were like the big two, and Gateway. I forgot about Gateway. They were like the three. They were actually high end quality custom, machines. Dell started out as a custom order machine. They weren't the crap they are now. Um, and I'm like, get Macs. She's like, what? They're like 5 times more expensive. I'm like, no, they're about twice as expensive, and they'll pay for themselves in a year or two. She's like, no, 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 that's bullshit. And I'm like, no, it's really not. Here's the deal: you're gonna order the 10 PCs, and you're gonna order 5 Macs. And after a year or two, we're gonna compare the actual final cost. And she did. She's like, that's not a bad idea. I'll use the 5 Macs for this, and this, and I'll use the 10 PCs for this, and this. Well, after 2 years, every single one, and she got like 4 Dells and 3 Gateways and 6 Compaqs or something. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there was a variety of machines. Every single one of the PCs ended up costing her more in service, because every 3 to 6 months she had some tech guy in there fixing something, and it wasn't hardware, it was something bugged out. For some reason the software would bug out. When I left 5 years later, I only worked for her part-time, like here and there doing advertising. It wasn't like a full-time job. It was, I'd go in on weekends, a Wednesday afternoon or whatever. But after, I think it was 3 years later, or was it 4 years later? Whatever. When I finally left and moved on, all the Macs were still running just fine. Never needed anything. Never costed her another penny. Every single one of the PCs has costed her money, and probably a third of them had been replaced. Now, there's a lot of people who will go, oh, my PCs are stable. And they are, because you know how to maintain them. When you're in a business and you just have random people that don't know crap about a computer and just type on it every day, and they run 1 app or 2 apps and that's all they run, you're going to have problems. PCs crash a lot, especially back then. Again, they're way more stable now on both sides. I actually think the PCs have become more stable and Macs have become less stable in the last 10 years. I think Windows has become way more stable in the last 10 years. And Macs have become less stable. I mean, they're still more stable than a PC, but I think they've become less stable. And it's kind of close. I mean, they're about the same now, to be honest. There's still things about Windows I don't like. There's still things about Apple I don't like. Macs just work. They're just stable. I don't have to deal with them. That's the only downside, is I've forgotten all the stuff I used to know about both, because I don't need to know it anymore. I don't have to be super geeky to use my Macs. I don't have to go through and learn about PRAMs and, updating and battery, usage and all the weird frickin' settings you used to have to do. You just turn the frickin' thing on and it works. Most people who play with PCs and say, oh, my PCs work just fine, are PC geeks, which is fine. I like PC. I actually like Windows for the simple fact that you can hack around with them and play with them and, update your video card or install this driver. And I think that's freaking cool as crap. I don't want to do it. Which is fine. I mean, there's a use for both. I don't think PCs are unuseful. I just think for day-to-day uses, someone like me, someone like my mother, the average everyday user who, let's get real, don't need half the power that the computers have now. Most people don't need more than like a 1 gigahertz processor for their computer, because they're not using it. I mean, people like my mother, she surfs the web. she runs like one or two like apps, and most of those are like the Hoyle's gaming, card games. She doesn't really use a computer for what we use them for. And I have like a thing in my boot, and I can feel it, but I can't get it out. It's a sliver. There it is. Got it. It was bothering me. Nope, there's another one. Just moved it out. They're what they are is wood chips because I don't have my boot tied. I'm wearing them more like slippers, so crap gets in them. But anyways, yeah, I don't. Again, they both have their ups and downs. If you just turn it on and you use it and it works, that's for me. 15 years ago, I used to like Windows. Not, I didn't like it. I still like my Apples better because they just work. But I liked playing with Windows. I liked coding and playing with crap and going in and doing it. I have zero desire for that now. I want to turn it on and just have it work. And Macs do that. Windows don't as well. And I don't want to say they don't anymore because, again, the last two updates was Windows 7 and Windows 10. Are we on 11 or 13 or something now with Windows? It's been a while since I've used a Windows machine. But the last couple of times I used Windows, it was fine. It worked. It's all right. I prefer the layout of the Mac. It makes a little more sense to me. Again, more because I've been using Mac so long, and it makes more sense to me because I'm used to it. I think now if I got a Windows machine and I played with it for a month or two, I'd be fine with it. Yeah, no, they hadn't. It wasn't. It was longer ago than that, but whatever. I think the last Windows machine I used was about a month ago. But in reality, on a day-to-day basis, was working for him. I had a Windows machine, and I had to use it pretty much every day. God, when did I quit working for him? Like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. Just before my father got really sick. My neighbor who makes fences and stuff, we used to design. He used to have me design fancy and build fancy fences. It was funny. He went out and got me a Mac because I used to go to work and he'd be like, "Oh, go design this fancy gate for this fence." I'd be like, "All right, I'm going home. I'll do it on my computer." He's like, "Why?" It's like because it works on my computer. For one, I had all the software. He didn't, but it just worked. He's like, "Okay, well, what software do you need?" So we went and got Adobe Illustrator because a lot of that I did in Illustrator and a couple other apps. And after like a week of me constantly crashing the computer, he's like, "What? Does this happen at home?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Why?" Because I use a Mac. And again, part of it was because I like Macs better. I'm used to Macs, and they just I know how to maintain them. Some of it is me knowing how to maintain a Mac, just like some people know how to maintain Windows. They're stable if you know how to maintain them. And he went and bought a Mac, and he went out and bought all Macs. He's got one PC because he had two pieces of software that it's a fence company, only thing, and it only works on PCs, and it works on DOS. It's still running on DOS. That's how old it was. Um, but it was like a material listing breakdown, built to order software. Anyway, off that subject, we got sidetracked on the whole computer-y thing. I don't think either system is a terrible thing anymore. I just prefer my Macs because I like working on my or with my computer, not on it. That's my thing. If you want to work on your computer, Windows is better. If you want to just get work done on your computer and not be doing work to the computer, get a Mac. And if you know how to use Windows, fine, get a Windows because they work too. They all just work. They really are. The last couple of updates, everyone still bitches, but if you compare what we have to deal with now compared to what we dealt with back in say 2000, Freaking computers are 100 times more stable than they were freaking 20 years ago. Like 100 times on both sides. I don't care. You can go buy a freaking Walmart 299 computer, and it's better than most of the computers. Operating systems wise, they're more stable than they were for $1,000 gateway or compact or whatever. But anyway, let's glue up a cutting board. What do you think? Should I glue this up? What time is it? 9:30 in the morning. Owls are cool. Yes, owls are cool. We have an owl. We have lots of owls. We have big, great horned owls here. They hoot every night in the summertime. There are lots of owls here. They have a hoot fest, and I'm not kidding you when I say that. They literally, almost every single night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, they have a hoot fest. And they literally, like, out in the woods, you'll hear them hoo, 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 hoo. And they move through the woods. I don't know what they're doing, but they're like herding mice or squirrels or whatever at night, whatever they're hunting to eat, what they're doing. But there's probably a dozen of them, and some of them are huge. Like I've seen a couple of them here that are 3 feet tall easily. In fact, I have one out here all the time. He isn't so much because the stump's too rotten. I had a big tree that I cut down, like big trunk, like huge, because the center was rotten out and it was kept dropping branches and it was all cracking. So I had it cut down, I don't know, 10 years ago. And the very last couple of logs we didn't roll away because it just didn't happen that day, and they've been there ever since. Well, the center of it's rotten out, and there's a little owl. It's not a great horned owl. I don't know what it's an owl, but he sits in it. He hides in it, and this is during the day. He's a daytime owl. I didn't know there was daytime owls. There are. It's usually late in the afternoon you see them, but I've seen him out here less than a week ago. But he hides inside the log. It's a log about, I don't know, 3 feet long. That's hollow, and he gets inside of it and he waits for a fucking chipmunk or a squirrel to run by, and he just freaking snacks out and snags it. It's kind of cruel and mean and funny all at one time. You kind of feel bad for a little chipmunk or a squirrel, but then you're like, "You go, Mr. Owl. Nice job." STL finally made him an owl. There's a lot of STLs for owls. I think I'm going to glue this thing together. I think I'm going to try doing the whole thing in one shot. I don't know if I should or not. A lot of glue to get on here before it starts curing and clamp up. That's what people don't realize. Yes, chipmunks are a nuisance, but they're still, I mean, they're still a living little critter, and they're kind of cute. Same with squirrels. That's what this is all swamp here, all around me. It's a big, huge. I think it goes like 6 miles that way out back behind their house. Right behind their house, it turns into a big lake slash swamp, like 22 acres, and then it's the stream swamps go on either side of my property here that go down and out to the ocean. And we have the ospreys are back, like in major force. Like they hang out on my telephone pole and hunt squirrels and chipmunks. And thank God, because I used to walk out my door and there'd be like no lie 20 or 30 chipmunks out in the yard and squirrels, but mostly chipmunks. And now, I mean, I still see chipmunks pretty regularly, but it's like one or two here and there. So the owls and the osprey are eating them up. Yum yum. I need glue and a brush, and my knee's stiff from sitting too long, and my glue brush is all stiff from being full of glue. I love these silicone brushes. You just kind of rub it, and all the glue comes out. It's awesome. I actually kind of like leaving them full of glue, like right here at the base of the brush, and then let it harden, and you pull it off, and you get this like cheese grater like chunk of glue all dried up on it, and it just separates off of it. Freaking cool as crap. Let's bring the camera over so you can actually see the cutting board. It's just in the corner of it. And you know what? Let's just glue this thing together. We're just gonna slap glue on and make a freaking mess, because that's what I'm good at. I'm gonna take this thing down now because it's paranoying me now that it's gonna just fall over. And lay these legs down. And I'll process them later, but just so they don't fall over. And let's just start gooing up crap. I gotta bring my chair up. Roll it forward a little bit. And I hope I have enough glue in this bottle. I might have to get me some more glue. And I just put way too much on there, like a dumbass. And let's just start doing it up. If I do this quick enough, I think I can get away with doing the whole cutting board. One glue up. The problem is, when people don't realize, I'm using tight. You have to use Titebond 3. You can't use 1 or 2. You're not supposed to, anyways, for cutting boards, because they're not waterproof. Titebond 3 is waterproof. But, and actually all the Titebonds and pretty much any good woodworking glue, they set up in about 15 minutes. And if they start setting up and then you go to clamp them, they won't clamp up right. They'll leave like air gaps and do all kinds of weird stuff because it's really not liquid anymore. It's kind of a gel. And it makes it very difficult to get nice tight clamping seams. So if you take too long and the glue starts setting up, you'll get a really crappy glue up. You kind of have to do it fast and make a mess. And just do it quick like, which is what I'm doing. But I think I'll have no problems. I don't have a lot of these seamed pieces on this one. Normally I have a buttload of little Tetrasy pieces I have to end glue as well as face glue. So it takes a lot longer, and you have to be more careful about clamping the end joints and blah, blah, blah. I usually do it in halves. I'll glue half the cutting board one session and the other half the second, just to give me safety of clamping time, if that makes sense. But not this time. I'm going all out. I'm going for it. Let's just glue this thing up and clamp it together. Glue it up. Like this one's got a lot of joints in it, but it's already glued. So it don't matter so much. Because all the little seams and joints, there's a lot of extra glue on that end. That sucks, but oh well. My brother keeps saying I gotta get stock and Titebond. So what are you guys all doing on this here 4th of July, besides Rob working? Rob's working. If he's even still here. He said the poor guy's working. I hope he gets like wicked overtime for it, or bonus, or whatever. That's sometimes worth it. I used to actually like working holidays back when I was younger, because when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, most of the people I worked with already had families and all that. So one, it allowed them to, like, you know, if I worked, they didn't have to, so they could be home with the holiday with their families. And I got a buttload of extra money for working that day. Like when I worked in retail, I used to work at Laser Sound. For years, I worked at Laser Sound, which a lot of you people don't know what Laser Sound is, but it was an electronics, semi big box store, but all they sold was electronics, stereos and VCRs, CD players and TVs, and they broke off into appliances toward the end. They're gone now. I think PC Richards bought them up. They were back around in the 70s and 80s and 90s, local around here. They were pretty much a New England company. But anyways, um, I loved working the weekends and the holidays because we got paid time and a half on the weekends and we got paid double time on the holidays. Plus, when you sold crap, you got commission. So I can make more money on a Sunday than most people made all week. Which I actually kind of hated the job because it was kind of slimy. One of those slimy car salesman style jobs. But made a lot of money for a part-time job. That was a part-timey job. I did it for a lot of years, but it was part-time. I was more of a fill-in for other people. And weekends when no one else wanted to work, and holidays when no one else wanted to work. And I didn't mind because I made a lot of money doing it. And it was fun. That I actually started doing it. It was funny. Started doing it. Started working at Laser Sound because I found out you got wicked discounts on equipment, like Alpine car stereos. Remember Alpine car stereos? That was like my dream thing when I first started working there, was to get a really nice high-end Alpine car stereo for my Camaro. I had a Camaro back then, and I wanted the banging awesomest stereo I could get. And the only way I could afford it was to go work at an audio shop. And a few of the high-end companies, not only do you get a discount through the store itself, Alpine, Harman Kardon, JBL, and a few others would give you brand points. So every time you sold one of their products in your store, you'd get points. And you could use those points as discount dollars to buy the product. So I got, after like a year, I ended up getting it was ridiculous. It was probably a $5,000 or $6,000 stereo back then, which we're talking, God, that must have been mid-90s. I got this $5,000 or $6,000 stereo, which is probably like a $10,000 stereo now, for like $400. Like all like real high-end custom JBL freaking speakers. I had JBL satellite speakers. I had these big, massive Bose floor-standing monstrosities, all Denon and Bang and Olufsen, and who else? Harman Kardon, mostly Harman Kardon. Um, audio equipment, DVD player, CD players, and um, cassette players. Back when there was cassettes. Yeah, I bought this wicked expensive stereo for like practically nothing, just from working at the store. Mitsubishi, freaking real high end DVD player. And that, my friends, is the glue. And I should have had clamps already, but I didn't because I'm a dumbass. Oh yeah, let's get the glue all over the table. I got it everywhere, including on me. And I should have brought the clamps over already, but I didn't because I'm a dumbass. I hope these are big enough. Let's clamp it up. Let go of me. Mild clamp there. And a mild clamp here. And then let's take this thing and a scrappage. I have a nice piece of scrappage that's scrappy enough without being too scrappy. These should work. And let's just make sure all the joints are tight. And it's not letting the joint get tight, so it's got to be too tight already. The glue might even be setting already. Where's the next one with a joint? Here. And right here. And this one. I'm trying to make sure anything that has a joint in the middle here is nice and snug. And let's re-clamp. And go down and clamp the whole thing schneisen tight. Because it needs to be schneisen tight. Not just tight, but schneisen tight. Which I have no idea what that means, but it sounded good. Yep. I didn't get the ends all perfect over here, but I'm over it. It's all going to get cut off anyways. Now it's just all about the clampity clamps. Clampity, clampity, clampers. Hey, that needs to be opened up a little, dumbass. This one needs to be moved out. Get a little more even spread. And that's pitching the wrong way, dumbass. That's better. Come on. Cheapo freaking Harbor Freight clamp. But it still works. Still clamps. That looks like a cutting board. Pretty cool, huh? Here you go. There's one cutting board all gooed up. And it's lifting up. I gotta fix that. We can fix that with some more clamps. And a couple of boards. Actually, I probably only need one or two down the middle. Let's take two. Let's take two. And we'll put that right there. Clamp that down. Should have done this before I tightened all of these. That's all right. I think it'll work. I know it'll work because I can hear it settling. Oops. I want to get on this. And then do the same thing. Oh, on this side. God, that thing's heavy. I need another little clamp. Little clamp. Little shorty clamp. Wow, that lifted way up in the air. We can fix that. Yeah, going right back down again. That just keeps it from bowing. So when I go to put it through the planer, I don't have to take as much off. Because it does bow, especially with these kind of clamps. They have a, as they tighten, they bow, and they actually pull the board up with it. That makes sense. I'm not sure if I described that the best way, but you get the idea. Yeah, I've heard mixed things about comp, but everything I've ever seen about them has looked okay. This one's got to go because it's actually holding that up because I set the jaw too low. Now we can tighten it back up, and then we can tighten this up. Yeah, baby. That flattened her right out. I mean, it's not going to be perfect because these are all not exactly the same thickness. They're all kind of random scraps, but it'll hold. And this is going to get glued to this because I didn't clean the glue up, but that's all right. I can take this whack with the hammer and it'll pop right off. So there we go. One board all glued up. It weighs a ton because it's all clamp. A lot of clamps. And let's put this one away because I don't need it. I have enough stuff here. I could probably make two more just like that. And let's clean up the glue because I got freaking glue everywhere because I am a friggin' slob. That I am. My scrap oak table. Everyone laughs. It's not scrap, and then they look at the bottom and they're like, "Oh, I see." Where'd my garbage can go? Over there. Garbage can is over there. Yeah, I know. Well, it's dripping off the brush right now. I actually hang the brushes and let it drip right into the garbage can. I have the garbage can right above my brushes. They just kind of hang off the end of the cleat and drip all over the place. Oh yeah, there's a lot of glue that was behind the bottle, huh? Well, let's get that up off my fancy oak countertop. That's really not that fancy. And have a seat because my leg is bothering me already. And let's get all the glue off of me. Where the hell did my eraser go? Right here. And if you don't know, if you're using regular wood glue and you get it all over your fingers, and you have one of these things that cleans your sandpaper, you just rub your fingers on it, your hand, anywhere the glue is, and it peels it right off your skin, like almost instantly. I'm not going to say it's the most comfortable thing. It's kind of a weird feeling because it is like rubbing an eraser on your fingers. It's kind of a weird, rough eraser, but it actually works really well. And it peels like 90% of the glue right off. Like it wasn't even there. It also probably peels like the first layer of your skin off too. Man, I got glue everywhere on my freaking hands. Where the hell did I get that much glue on me? Oh, I know, because I'm a slob. That's how. I got more on the back of my thumb and fingers than I do on the actual fingers. If that makes sense. But yeah, that works really well. Glue's pretty much gone. There's a few little bits here and there, but we're done. Well, that's one down. What now? I really need to sand and oil this one. Spearheader, I thought. Was it turned out to be? Oh, you're talking about lasers. I have no clue about lasers. I like my 10-watt Z1. Oh yeah, lasers. We were talking about lasers earlier. Yeah, I gotta get me a laser just to play with them. I want to do something with this. This is a really cool like cut off from one of these cutting boards. Actually, I think it's cut off from this cutting board, isn't it? Maybe. Maybe not. Anyway, cut off from a cutting board. I had to actually cut off a chunk of it because just on the other side of this, you can actually see here where I broke it. Um, was all screwed up, so I had to cut off a big chunk. But I want to like make this. I think I want to make it. I was gonna make it like a hammer handle, but I think I really want to make it like a utility knife handle out of it. Like I don't know if you ever saw it, but I have a design for 3D printed custom handles for this kind of utility knife where it folds out. And there's a few brands. Really, the only one left is the Huskies from Home Depot. I like them because the body is like an aluminum, but it's like 4 layers or 3 layers, and you can peel them all off, and the actual structural layer stays, so you can put like a decorative handle on it. And I think I want to do that with one of these. Gerbil, Gerbil, using the Gerbil G code. Everything Gerbil G code. Marlin is Gerbil. Marlin's based on Gerbil. I mean, it's really not anymore, but the original Marlin was based on Gerbil. I think it. I mean, in all reality, it's still based on Gerbil. Gerbil is everything. Gerbil, gerbil. I call it gerbil. Everyone uses gerbil. Anyway, I've been streaming for 2 hours, and there's only 4 people now watching. So I'm gonna kill it because I'm sure somebody else has better things to do. And it's now 10 o'clock, and I should probably do some things. I like these little blocks. I just don't know what I'm gonna do with them. Of all the fancy woods I'll glue together. Anyway, I'm gonna kill the stream. You all have a fun day. Enjoy your holiday. Have hot dogs and hamburgers and all that good crap because that's what you're supposed to do today. So, see you.